So now the eyelashes are optional. And again, I used my Kiss Blowout Pompadour eyelashes, the same one that I used for my Corgi dog. And for the puppy, I'm not going to use the whole eyelash. I'm just going to use about 1 centimeter. So I'm going to go ahead and cut about 1 centimeter. So then I have one. I'm going to cut another centimeter. Just going to make sure I have them the same size. Yeah, they're the same size. So now I have 2 eyelashes. They're about 1 centimeter. And then I'm just going to save the rest for another dog. So these eyelashes have a little bit of a sticky substance on them, but not enough to keep it onto the dog. But it helps you to kind of place it where you want it. But you're going to need additional help, so I'm using a Q-tip so that I can press it down. And also I'm using super glue. So if you're going to use super glue and put eyelashes, make sure you read the precautions. So just like I did with the Corgi dog. And for mine, I just placed the eyelashes on the edge of the eye only. So I just took a little bit of the super glue, and again, you want to be very careful you don't get this on your fingers. And then I just squeeze the super glue onto the edge. So I put quite a bit there. And I put the cap on the super glue. I don't want it getting on my... Then grab the eyelash so that you have the sticky portion will go on the super glue. Be careful you don't touch the super glue. And then just kind of press down on the lash. So I have mine curving up. And then I'm just going to press down on the super glue. Make sure that the lashes go onto the super glue. And then you repeat it on the opposite side in the exact same place. Now you can always add a little bit more super glue on top if you want to. So I'm going to add just a little bit more on top. But if you add a little bit more, just be careful you don't get it onto the safety doll eye, because then it turns the safety doll eye white. So that just helps to make sure that the eyelash stays. So I just put a little bit more on there, and then I'm going to put the other eyelash on. So you can see how I placed the other eyelash. The other important thing that I want to let you know is make sure that you have both of the eyelashes curling up. So you don't want one curling down and then you have the other one curling up. So make sure that when you place them the same on both sides. And if you want to, you can cut the leftover portion of the eyelash and double layer the eyelash, which is what I did for mine. So I just took and placed it right on top of the other eyelash and then just pressed it down. And if you need to add more glue, you can do that as well. And then that just adds even more to the eyelash. It's really pretty. This is how mine looks when I'm finished. The super glue dries really fast. And I like how it looks with the double layer on the eyelashes. So again, I just want to show the two different style of eyes next to each other. I'm really happy with how the girl eyes turned out. And I like the boy eyes too, but the girl eyes are just really gorgeous with the eyelashes. So now you could set the head aside. We're going to make the ears. So for the ears, you're going to need 2 of the white sparkle triangles, and you're going to need 2 of the honey colored or main color for your dog. So I'm going to show you how to make one of these with the honey colored yarn. So you're going to take your honey colored yarn and you're going to fold over the yarn on itself to form a loop. Take your crochet hook, go right through the loop, hold the base of the loop with your middle finger and your thumb. Then just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for a slip knot. Go ahead and cinch that knot down and cinch the loop around your crochet hook. Then you're going to make a chain of 10. I'm just going to show you 4 of them on video tutorial. So you just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for 1, 2, 3, 4. So go ahead, finish a chain of 10, and then come back. So after you finish your chain of 10, you're going to make a single crochet into the second chain from the hook. And then bring up a loop and make a single crochet. And then you're going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch back across. And then after you finish your last single crochet, you should have 9 stitches for this row. So 1 single crochet in every stitch back across. So now you should have a total of 9 stitches for this row. Then after you finish your last single crochet, you're just going to turn your work. So go ahead and turn your work. Then you're going to make a single crochet into the next stitch over. So go into that next stitch, bring up a loop, and make a single crochet. And then you're just going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch back across. And when you make your last single crochet for this row, you should have a total stitch count of only 8. So 1 single crochet in every stitch across. So after finishing that row, you should have 8 stitches in this row. Then after that last single crochet, again, you're just going to turn your work, and then you're going to make a single crochet into the next stitch over, and then you're just going to repeat making 1 single crochet in every stitch across. And when you finish this row, you'll have a stitch count of 7. Then, you guessed it, you're just going to turn your work and make a single crochet into the next stitch and 1 single crochet in every stitch back across, and this time you're going to have a stitch count of 6. So it's always going to decrease by 1. So now I have a stitch count of 6. I'm going to turn my work, go into the next stitch, and make a single crochet into every stitch back across. And this time I want to have a stitch count of 5. And then you're going to turn your work, and you can see how you're forming a triangle, which is what you want. So now you're going to go into the next stitch for a single crochet, 1 single crochet in every stitch across, and that will give you a stitch count of 4. Turn my work, next stitch for 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and this time I'll end up with a stitch count of 3. Turn my work, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and I have a stitch count of 2. Then I'm going to turn my work and then just slip stitch into the next stitch. So just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and bring the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. Then you're going to finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through just to bury into your work. And then you have your triangle. So you need 2 of the main color triangles, and you need 2 of, this is the outer portion of the ear, and then the inner portion of the ear you're going to need 2 of the white sparkle colored. And then after you finish your 4 triangles, 2 in the different colors, come back and I'll show you how to crochet the pieces together. So now you're going to take one color with the white and one color with the main color, and I usually lay them so that I can tie the loose yarn ends at the top of the triangle as well as the bottom. So just tie those two loose yarn ends together, and then you're just going to tuck those inside the ear when you get to those loose yarn ends. So for this ear, you always want to start with the white portion facing towards you, and then you take your crochet hook and you go into that corner of the white portion and then of the main color. So grab a stitch of each, and we're going to crochet the two triangle pieces together. So now you're going to get the honey colored yarn, and then you're just going to bring up a loop with the honey colored yarn. Then you can go ahead and chain one and then just tie a knot. Then you can tuck that loose yarn end into the inside of the triangle. You're going to bury it as you crochet. Then you're going to chain one again. And then when you're working alongside the triangle on both sides, the stitches, you're working along the side of the stitches. So you're going to have to evenly space the single crochet stitches along the side. So you just take your crochet hook, you go into that next space, and then I'm going to go on top of the loose yarn end and into the back of the triangle. And then I'm going to bring up a loop and then just make a single crochet. And you're going to evenly space your single crochet stitches, and you're going to keep the triangles on top of each other. Just trying to bury my loose yarn end. Until you get to the tip of the triangle. So just kind of evenly space, and this is what it looks like on the back. And then you're just crocheting the two pieces together. And then just tuck the loose yarn ends to the inside. You can always trim it if it hangs out of the bottom. And then when you get to the tip, you're going to place two single crochet into the tip. So this is still the side. So if you can't get into the tip, then you can just place two single crochet into the same stitch, and then go to the opposite side and then place two single crochet into that stitch. And then you can see how it makes the tip of the triangle. And then you can always try to move the yarn over any white portion, or you can come back later with your tapestry needle and then just fix that white portion that shows on the back. And I'll show you how to do that. So then you just finish up the other side. You just take and finish making a single crochet into each stitch along the opposite side. So I only have a couple more stitches. I'll make one last one on the end here. Then when you finish your last single crochet, you can go ahead and finish off, and you're going to yarn over and pull enough yarn through to sew the back of the ear only. You want to use the same color to sew the same portion, same colored portion to the back. So you're going to sew the back of the ear with the same colored yarn. And you can tuck any of your loose yarn ends into the center of the ear. So now I'm just going to show you how to cover this portion if you have any white portions that are showing. So I just take a little bit of the same colored yarn as the main color and put it onto my tapestry needle, and then I'm just going to take and go through the ear. Make sure you leave enough of a loose yarn end, and then I'm just going to loop over that portion of the ear to cover it up. Might take a couple loops to cover it. Then you can take, once it's covered, then you can take and tie a knot. And then you can just bury the loose yarn ends. So for mine, I'm going to take the loose yarn end onto my tapestry needle, and then I'm just going to take and go right where I tied my knot, and then go through the back only. So make sure you don't go through the front, and then just bring that loose yarn end through. And then cut it. So go ahead and bury your loose yarn ends. And then of course if you don't have any white showing, you don't even have to worry about it. And then this is what your ear looks like. So go ahead and sew the other ear together the same way, and then I'll show you how to sew them onto the dog. So the second ear turned out perfect, so I didn't even have to cover anything. So it's a good thing that the other ear had that happen on video tutorial, that way I can show you how I fix it. Then we're going to take and sew the ears in place. So I'm going to get some of my white colored yarn first on my tapestry needle. I usually like to sew the white portion first, and then I sew the back portion last. So now I have the white yarn on my tapestry needle, and you're going to take one of your ears, and I usually use the magic circle on top as a landmark, and I also use the side of the eye as a landmark. So you're going to take and position the ear so that you're 2 rounds away from the magic circle, 1, 2, and you're also approximately 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, from the eye. And then I usually tuck in and form a little V or a U with the white portion. So you know that you're going to be 3 stitches from the side of the eye, so I usually count 1, 2, 3, and then go in and up through the white portion. You want to leave a little bit of a loose yarn end for tying a knot, and then I just go back down and out the same portion. Carefully, your eyelashes should be pretty secure with the super glue, but you don't want to keep hitting it. But it might be a good test, then you can see if it stays really well. You can always glue it back on too. Then you're going to take and tie a knot. And then you're going to reposition. Remember, you're 2 rounds from the magic circle, and you're in line with the magic circle for the inner portion of the ear. And you're just going to push the inner ear inwards into like a U or V shape. And then you're going to go back into the ear. and then go down. And you can lay the ear back too if you need to go in and out. Just sewing the ear in place. You don't want to make too large of a stitch showing on the outside, because then you might be able to see the stitch. Then just kind of reposition the inner portion of the ear, and then go in, and then go ahead and come out where you want the inner portion of the ear to fall. So I want it to be 2 rounds out and in line with the magic circle. So I have my tapestry needle coming out 1-2 rounds out, and it's also in line. And then you can just bring the yarn through, and then you can go up into the corner of the ear and then bring it down to where you want it to fall. Then you can just finish sewing. I'm pretty secure as far as the inner portion, so I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot where I started. And then I usually bury the loose yarn ends. I go in where I tied my knot and then come up the center. You don't want to go into the back so you see the white yarn. You don't want to see the white yarn. So you just pull up the loose yarn ends into the front of the ear and then just trim the loose yarn ends. So go ahead and bury your loose yarn ends, and then we'll sew the back of the ear. So the hardest part is the front of the ear, getting that part lined up and in position. So the back of the ear is easy. So you just kind of pull out the back of the triangle, and then you want to bring the yarn towards the back of the ear, and then you can just take and sew the back of the ear in place. So you can see why you want to use the same color. You don't want to see your stitches, so that's why you use the same colored yarn as the portion that you're sewing. So go ahead, finish sewing the back of the ear, and then you sew the other ear on the exact same way. So make sure that your ears are symmetrical. So you don't want one ear here or up here. You want them both to be positioned the exact same way. Otherwise, the dog will look funny. So this is what it looks like after I have both of the ears sewn in place. So you can see that I lined up the ears, and also you want to make sure that they're on the same round too. So about 3 stitches back from the side of the ear along the same round for the bottom portion of the ear, and then using the magic circle about 2 rounds out on both sides, and notice they're at the same level. So I put mine a little bit towards the back, but you can move them forward too if you want to move them a little bit forward. Either way that you want to just make a unique look for your dog, or you can just do it the same way that I did. Now you can set the head aside. We're going to make the body now. So for the body, you're going to start the same way that you did for the head. So you're going to start with the magic circle. You're going to use your crochet hook to make a slip knot. Then you're going to make 6 single crochet into the magic circle. So it's the same way that we did for the head, and then you're just going to close it up. And just like we did for the head, you're going to place 2 single crochet into every stitch around until you have a total of 12 stitches in the round. So now you should have a total of 12 stitches in the round. And just like the head, we're going to increase to 1 single crochet into 4 stitches and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch. We're going to go in chronological order. So the first one is 1 single crochet into the first stitch and then 2 single crochet into the second stitch. And then you repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker, just like we did for the head. Then move the yarn marker up and make 1 single crochet into 2 stitches and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch, repeating that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. Then we only have 2 more increase rounds. So for the next increase round, you guessed it, 1 single crochet into 3 stitches and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch, repeating that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. Then you just move the yarn marker up for our last increase round, and the last increase round is 1 single crochet into 4 stitches and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch, and then repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. So 1 single crochet into 4 stitches and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch, repeating that pattern all the way around. Now you should have 36 stitches in the round, just like the head. And now that was our last increase round, so go ahead and move the yarn up. And now it's going to be a little bit different from the head because we need a longer body. So you're going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch around for 22 rounds. So 22 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch around. So you're not increasing the stitch count and you're not decreasing the stitch count. You're going to maintain the stitch count, and you're just going to leave your yarn marker in its place. Don't remove it, and just continue making 1 single crochet in every stitch around until you've completed 22 rounds, and then come back. So then after you finish 1 single crochet in every stitch around for 22 rounds, you can go ahead and place some craft stuffing into the body, and you can always add more craft stuffing as needed. Then you just take and remove the yarn marker because we're going to start making decrease rounds and close the body. So just take your yarn marker, place it right where you left off, and for the first decrease round we're going to be making 1 single crochet into 4 stitches. So 1 single crochet into 4 stitches, and then you're going to make your decrease stitch or single crochet 2 stitches together. So you take your crochet hook, go into the next stitch and bring up a loop, go into the next stitch and bring up a loop. You have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through all 3 for a single crochet 2 stitches together. And you're going to repeat this pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. So 1 single crochet into 4 stitches and then single crochet 2 stitches together. And then repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. So now you should have a total of 30 stitches in the round. And from now on, I'm not going to give you the stitch count for each of the decrease rounds because all you have to do is just subtract 6 from the previous round, and that will give you the stitch count. So now just move the yarn marker up, and for this next decrease round, you're just going to make 1 single crochet into 3 stitches, and then you're going to single crochet 2 stitches together. And then you're just going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker, 1 single crochet into 3 stitches and then single crochet 2 stitches together, and repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. Then for the next decrease round, you're going to make 1 single crochet into 2 stitches and then single crochet 2 stitches together, repeating that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. I added a little bit more craft stuffing for my body, And then I moved up the yarn marker for my next decrease round, which is 1 single crochet into 1 stitch, and then single crochet 2 stitches together. Repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. Then you can remove the yarn marker, and then you're just going to make single crochet 2 stitches together until you're almost closed. So single crochet 2 stitches together until you're almost closed, and then we're going to slip stitch it closed. So I'm probably going to make a couple more before I slip stitch mine closed. And then you can see that I have a very small opening. So now I'm going to skip a stitch, go into the next stitch, and then I'm going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and bring the yarn through both loops for a slip stitch. And you're going to keep slip stitching until the body is completely closed. So I'm going to make one more, and then mine will be closed completely. Then you can go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and then just pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. Then you can take your tapestry needle, put it onto the loose yarn end, and then go right in where you finished off, and then come out anywhere on the body. And then give a gentle tug on the loose yarn end, and then you can take and trim it, and then that buries the loose yarn end into the body. So now you can get the same colored yarn onto your tapestry needle, and then you're going to take your body, and it doesn't matter which side you use because we're going to be covering both sides with fur anyway. So go ahead and find which side you want to place the head, and then you're going to place it on top of the body, and then you're going to line up the front of the head with the front of the body. And then you want to make sure that the nose stays straight on the body. So as you're sewing this first round, you may not get all of the stitches. There might be wide gaps as you sew for the first round, and that's okay because the first round is meant to just secure the head on the body in the position that you want it. You don't want the head sewn on this way or that way. You want to keep the head straight, and then you just hold it in place. Then you take your tapestry needle, and I usually start in the back and I go into the body and then up into the head, the side of the head. And then I just bring the yarn through and leave a long loose yarn end for burying into your work. And then I go, if I come out on the head, then I go back in the head a stitch over. So I go back a stitch over, and then I'm going to go down, because I'm going to tie a knot when I get back around. So I'm going to go a stitch over, and I'm going to go back into the head and into the body and come out of the body towards the front. And you can always just reposition the head as you're sewing, so just bring the yarn through. Make sure you don't lose that loose yarn end in the back. And then reposition the head. And then, since I came out of the body, I have the nose facing straight. I came out of the body, so I'm going to go a stitch over on the body, go back into the body and up and out the side of the head. Make sure you don't poke yourself. And then I just double check, make sure that the head is still straight. Then you go back in a stitch over and then go back into the body and then come out. And then that's the first round. And you're going to make several rounds until the head is secure on the body. And then I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot. So I'm going to come out where I had initially gone in. and then just tie a knot. And then that just holds the head in position, and then you make several more rounds where you sew the head in place to make sure that the head is secure. So then, after you have the head sewn on, we're going to make the collar fur, and the fur that goes on the front of the body and under the body. So I'm going to show you both styles of yarn for the fur. I'm going to show you the beginners, the Tender Touch Snow style yarn, which is easier to work with for beginners. At the end of the video tutorial, I'll be showing you the Bernat Pipsqueak style of yarn, and I will be showing some differences between the two as I work with this yarn. But again, at the end of the video tutorial, I'll show you how to use the Bernat Pipsqueak yarn for the back side of the dog's fur. So for the fur collar, we're going to start with the snow-colored yarn, and then you're going to take and fold the yarn over on itself to form a loop. Take your 3.75mm crochet hook, go right through the loop, hold the base of the loop with your middle finger and your thumb. Then you're just going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for a slip knot. Go ahead and cinch that knot down and cinch the loop around a crochet hook. And then you're going to make a chain. We're going to make a chain of 11. And I'm just going to show you 4 of the chains on video tutorials. You're just going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, there's 4. So go ahead, finish a chain of 11, and then come back. So now that you have a chain of 11, I'm just going to give you the measurement in case you're using a different style of yarn. So the measurement is approximately 2.5 inches. So it's about 2.5 inches in length. Actually, it's going to end up being the width of the collar. So the width of the collar is 2.5 inches, and I'm starting with a chain of 11 with the snow-colored yarn. Now with the Pipsqueak style yarn, I used the 6mm crochet hook, and you can see how it's difficult to see the stitches with this style of yarn. But if you're using this style of yarn, I have a measurement for this width of approximately 3 inches with the Pipsqueak yarn. And again, I started with a chain of 8 using the 6mm crochet hook with the Pipsqueak yarn. So then, after you finish your initial starting chain, you're going to make a double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook. So count back from the hook, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're going to make a double crochet into that 4th chain from the hook. So you just yarn over, go into that 4th chain from the hook, bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through 2, yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through 2. Then you're just going to yarn over, go into the next stitch, and make a double crochet, and you're going to make 1 double crochet into every stitch back across. And you would repeat, if you're using the Pipsqueak yarn, you would do the same thing. So you would double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook, and then 1 double crochet in every stitch back across. Then, when you make your double crochet into the last stitch, we're going to move up to the next row. So for mine, I have, including that first end stitch, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 double crochet for that first row. Then, just make a chain of 3, 1, 2, 3, and then turn your work and make 1 double crochet into the next stitch. So go into that next stitch, bring up a loop and complete your double crochet, and then you're just going to make 1 double crochet into every stitch back across, and you're going to keep repeating this pattern of a chain 3 and 1 double crochet into each stitch back across which means that each row should have the same stitch count and every double crochet should be directly above the previous row's double crochet if you're doing it correctly. And then you're just going to keep repeating this until you get the length you need for the dog's fur collar. So when you come back, I'll let you know how many rows that I completed and also give you the measurements. So here you can see I completed the second row. Then I'm going to chain 3. For beginners, I recommend counting. Make sure that your double crochets are lining up directly above the previous row's double crochet, and you should have the same number, which was 9 double crochet for each row. So I chained 3 to move up to the next row, then I turn my work, and then I make a double crochet into the next stitch and 1 double crochet in every stitch back across. So now you can see that with my snow colored yarn I made 14 rows with my 3.75 millimeter crochet hook, and it measures 7 inches in height, which is the same thing with my pipsqueak yarn. So the pipsqueak yarn is still, it's actually measuring about 2.5 inches in width, whereas the snow colored yarn is more 2 inches, but that doesn't matter, they're still pretty close. And the pipsqueak yarn only needed 8 rows to get 7 inches in height, whereas you need 14 rows with the snow colored yarn. So if you use a different style of yarn, you just make double crochet rows until you get the 7 inches in height. And another thing that you can do is just double check the size around the dog's neck. So just kind of wrap the fur, crochet fur around the neck, and just make sure it touches in the back. You don't want it too loose and you don't want it too tight. So I found that 14 rows worked out perfectly. So then once you have the number of rows that you need, or the height that you need for the fur collar, go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to sew the collar later. So you kind of just cinch down that long loose yarn end for sewing. And now we're going to make the middle portion that goes down the front of the body and under the dog. So now you just need your favorite stitch markers, and I have my stitch marker case that I purchased this from Pastiche Accessories on Etsy. She does beautiful polymer clay work. And I also have a lot of her stitch markers. So you just need 3 of the stitch markers, and I have my 3 stitch markers. If these hooks are too small for your fingers, you can also use safety pins. These work great too as stitch markers. So now you just need 3 stitch markers, and you're going to take the collar and you're going to fold it in half, and then you're going to find the center. So then once you find the center, you can take and put a stitch marker into the center. Then you're going to hold this up to the front of the dog. So then you just take and place the center into the front of the body, and then place a stitch marker on one side and 1 stitch marker on the opposite side. And this is where you're going to make the fur go all across the front and then down the body, the under portion of the body. Then on my board, each of these little blocks is 1 inch. So I have approximately 3 inches between the stitch markers, between the 2 side stitch markers. And this is what it looks like. So then you're just going to turn your work over. This is the right side of the work. And then I have my stitch markers on top. And then you're going to join your yarn, your crochet hook, into the stitch with the stitch marker on the top right. So go ahead and remove that stitch marker, and then take your crochet hook and go into where that stitch marker was. Then you're going to bring up a loop with your yarn. So you want the same style of yarn, and then just bring up a loop, and then chain one, and then tie a knot. And then you can bury the loose yarn end as you crochet. Then you're just going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you'll notice that you're working along the side, so you have these double crochets on their side, and then you have this gap or space underneath the double crochet. So in these gaps or these spaces under the double crochet, you're going to make 2 double crochet into the same space, and then between the 2 double crochet on their side you have another stitch, and you're going to place 1 double crochet into the stitch between the 2 double crochet spaces or gaps. So I have a double crochet into a stitch right before a double crochet on its side, so I'm going to make 2 double crochet into that space. So I'm going to go behind the loose yarn end, bring up a loop, and then make a double crochet, and then I'm going to make 1 more double crochet into the same space, and then that brings me to the stitch between the 2 double crochet spaces. I'm going to make 1 double crochet into that space or stitch, and then I come to my next double crochet space, so I'm going to make 2 double crochet into that space. And you're going to repeat this all the way across, and you can go ahead and remove the center stitch marker, and then you're going to make double crochets all the way across until you reach your last stitch marker, and then come back. So for mine, I had 19 total double crochet stitches, and it measures approximately 4 inches from one side to the other. Then you just take, and after you finish making your double crochet stitches, you're just going to chain 3, and then turn your work, and then make 1 double crochet into the next stitch, and 1 double crochet into every stitch back across. And then you're going to repeat this pattern of chain 3, 1 double crochet in every stitch across until you have the length that you need. And for each row that you complete, you should have the same stitch count as the previous row. So I finished 12 rows with the snow colored yarn, and it measures 6 inches. So again, these are 1-inch blocks, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 inches in length. And then for the width, it measures approximately, on this wider part of it, it measures about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So about 4 to 5 inches across. And then for your pipsqueak yarn, you're going to have less rows, but it's going to measure the same thing. So it's still going to be 6 inches. So you just make it the length to where it measures 6 inches. And you can double check on the dog itself too. Just take the collar, wrap it around the dog's neck, and bring the front of the body, the fur across the front of the body and under the body. And then you could see that it stretches up. You want to stretch it up to the magic circle on the back. So you can just check it and make sure it's the length that you need. So I'm going to be working with the snow colored yarn, but I wanted to show you, for those of you that love the pipsqueak yarn as much as I do, how to make the pipsqueak style for the collar and the fur. And then for the back side, I'll be showing you at the end of the video how to make the back side, because the back side is completely different. So then after you finish your last row with the snow colored yarn, go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to sew the fur onto the dog. So now you're just going to take your tapestry needle and put it onto the long end that you left for sewing, and you're going to wrap the collar around the dog's neck. Don't sew the collar to the dog yet, because you want to make sure that you position the rest of the fur so that it's not crooked. So you're just going to take the back of the collar, and you're going to take that long end that you left for sewing and the tapestry needle, and you're going to go through the opposite stitch on the opposite side, and then just bring the tapestry and the yarn through to bring the two sides together. And then you're just going to sew the two sides together, just going in and out. And like I said, don't go into the dog yet. So you're just going to grab one stitch on one side and one stitch on the opposite side, and then just bring your tapestry needle and yarn through to sew the two edges together. So then after you finish sewing the back of the collar, then you can take and position, make sure that the front is even on both sides and that the fur goes under the dog so that it's even on both sides. Then once you're happy with the position of the fur, then you can take and sew the collar down. So you're going to sew the top of the collar first, sew it in place, and then you're going to sew the bottom of the collar in place. This is what mine looks like after I finish sewing the fur in place. Now I'm ready to show you how to make the back portion of the fur. So before we start on the back side, I just wanted to show you that you could make it slightly narrower too for a different look. So on this female one, I made the front portion that goes across the front of the body and under the body a little bit wider. So if you want, you can also make it narrower for other puppy dogs if you make more than one. So now I'm going to show you how to make the back side. So we're going to start with the magic circle. Just take and drape the yarn across your 4 fingers. Use your thumb to stabilize, and then wrap the yarn around your 2 middle fingers and hold it in place with your pinky and your thumb. And then you're going to make a slip knot into the magic circle. And then place 6 single crochet into the magic circle. And then you're going to close up the magic circle just like you've done before. And then you're just going to turn your work, and then we're going to make 2 single crochet into every stitch around until you have a total of 12 stitches in the round. So 2 single crochet into every stitch around until you have a total of 12 stitches in the round, and then come back. So now you should have 12 stitches in the round. And you're going to make your increase rounds now. We're going to be making 3 increase rounds. You're going to take your yarn marker, place it right where you left off. And for the first increase round, you're going to make 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch. And you're going to repeat that pattern all the way around, back to the yarn marker. So 1 single crochet into one stitch, and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch, and repeat that pattern all the way around. Then for the next increase round, just move your yarn marker up, and then you're going to make 1 single crochet into 2 stitches, and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch, repeating that pattern all the way around. Then for the last increase round, you're going to make 1 single crochet into 3 stitches and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch and repeat that pattern all the way around. Now you should have 30 total stitches in the round. And you're just going to move up the yarn marker, and now you're not going to make any more stitches in the round. So you're going to maintain the stitch count of 30 in the round, and you're going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch around for a total of 2 rounds. So 2 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch around. Then, after you finish 2 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch, go ahead and remove the yarn marker, and then you're going to make a slip stitch into the next stitch over. Just yarn over and pull the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. Then you can go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to sew with. And then you're going to need 2 of these. So go ahead and make 1 more. So now you should have 2 cups, and you're going to take the 2 long ends that you left for sewing and you're going to tie them together into a knot. And then we're going to take, and you have the wrong side facing up and the right sides together. So the right sides will be together, and we're going to sew along the center with our tapestry needle. Then just take your tapestry needle and put it onto one of the long ends that you left for sewing, and you're going to pinch the 2 sides together. Again, that's the right sides that are together. And then you're just going to take your tapestry needle and you're just going to go through a stitch on both of the cups. And then you're just going to stitch right down the center. Just sewing the 2 cups together. Then you're going to take and tie a knot. A little bit knot there, but that's okay because it's on the wrong side. And then this will be what it looks like on the right side. And here is the wrong side. And now it's ready to sew onto the dog. I just put a little bit of craft stuffing into mine before I placed it onto the back of the dog for sewing. So the first thing you want to do is line up the center. So you want to take and line up, make sure that it's directly in the center, and you also want a little bit on the top free because that's where the tail is going to go. So you can set it down onto the backside fur here. So you can set it as low as you need it, but make sure that you leave enough room at the top for the tail. And then you just take your tapestry needle and then just sew the center in place. So just go in and out and position and sew the center. Then you can center the cups on each side and just sew all around the edge of each cup. This is what it looks like when I'm finished sewing it in place. It looks good. And then I'm just going to show you what the pipsqueak one looks like. So this is the one with the pipsqueak yarn. So now I'm going to show you really quick the difference. If you're using the pipsqueak style yarn, I'm going to show you the difference when crocheting with that to make the same backside fur. So with the pipsqueak yarn, you're going to need your 6mm crochet hook. It just makes it easier because the stitches, you can't really see the stitches when you work with this yarn. So the larger crochet hook just makes it a little bit easier. So the first thing that you're going to do is take and fold the yarn over on itself to form a loop. Take your crochet hook, go right through the loop, hold the base of the loop with your middle finger and your thumb. Then you're going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for your slip knot. Go ahead and cinch that knot down, and then cinch the loop around your crochet hook. Then you're going to make a chain of 2. 1, 2. So you can see that it's really difficult because it's so furry, you can't really see the crochet stitches. So that makes it more difficult to work with, but it also creates work that people can't tell is crochet. So I really love working with it, and it's really soft too. So then what you're going to do is you're going to go into the second chain from the hook. So we know that the stitch is right here next to the hook. That's the first one, and then here's the second stitch, which is furthest from the hook. So you're going to take your crochet hook, go into that stitch, bring up a loop, and then make a single crochet. Now you do not want tight crochet stitches, so try to keep the loop around your hook a little bit loose. Don't keep it too tight because we're going to have to work into these stitches later. Then you go into the same stitch and bring up a loop and then make another single crochet. Then you're going to make a total of 6 single crochet into the same stitch. So that was my second. I'm going into the same stitch for my third, and I'm not going to bury the loose yarn in because this yarn is difficult enough seeing the stitches, so I don't want any buried loose yarn in confusing it more. So I'm going to go into the same stitch, bring up a loop for my fourth single crochet, into the same stitch for my fifth and sixth. So I have 6 single crochet stitches in the same stitch. So basically, for the regular styled yarn, we used a magic circle to get the 6 single crochet into this stitch. And you could use the magic circle with this style of yarn, but I found that it's more difficult. Sometimes it gets snagged, and you don't really need the magic circle for this style of yarn because you can't see the center circle anyway, which is one of the benefits of the magic circle, that you could pull on the loose yarn end on the back and close up the center of the magic circle. So I just prefer using this method. It's much easier. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go into that first stitch. So you can see that you can't even see it, but we know that the stitch is right here. So you just take your crochet hook, you try to go into that stitch. You want to grab both loops of the stitch if you can, and you're going to bring up a loop, and you're going to make 2 single crochet into the same stitch. And you can also use a yarn marker. Sometimes I'll use a yarn marker just to help me keep track of where I am in the circle, because I'm just going to make 2 single crochet into every stitch around until I have the size that I want. So you just go into every stitch and you just make 2 single crochet in every stitch around, and I try to keep track of the count so that I know what the stitch count was for where I stopped. So far I've made 4 stitches since the yarn marker, and I'm continuing to make 2 single crochet in every stitch. Now if you miss a stitch, you'll see that your stitch count won't always be the same when you reach the yarn marker. That's okay, as long as it's getting larger and larger. That's why I like this method for enlarging, because I don't worry about if I skip a stitch or not, because I know I'm increasing because I'm making 2 single crochet in every stitch as I crochet. Some people like to feel for the stitches and do it that way. You can do that if you want to. For me, I just go around making 2 single crochet into what I think are stitches, and it gets larger and larger until I have the size that I want. And since I'm keeping track of the count, I'm going to move my yarn marker up each time. So when you come back, I'll let you know how many stitches that I have for where I stopped and what the measurement is. So continue making 2 single crochet in every stitch until you have the size you want, and when you come back, I'll show you what size I stopped at. For mine, I stopped at 22 stitches. So, and then the measurement for this one, each of the squares on my board here is about 1 inch, so it's about 2 inches by 2 inches. So 2 inches by 2 inches is where I stopped, and I have approximately 22 stitches in the round. So now I'm going to try to maintain that stitch count, and one of the things that I do to help is by the time I reach the opposite side of the stitch marker, I should have 11, and that means I need 11 more on the other side to maintain 22. So you want to try to maintain your stitch count once you get the size that you want for 2 more rounds. Then this is what mine looks like when I'm finished. You can go ahead and remove the yarn marker and make a slip stitch into the next stitch over. And then you can go ahead and finish off. So you just yarn over and then pull enough yarn through to sew the cups together. So I'm not going to cut this one because I'm going to save my pipsqueak yarn. I'm just using this as an example to show you how to crochet yours. And you're going to need 2 of these, and then you just sew them on the exact same way that you did for the other style of yarn, and you can see how it's going to look. I usually place a little bit of craft stuffing into it as well, but that's how you work with the pipsqueak yarn to make the same backside fur. So you can see how I showed you an easier method than with the other style of yarn. So now I'm going to show you how to make the tail. So now make sure you switch back to your 3.75 millimeter crochet hook, and I have this main colored yarn for the tail. You're going to drape the yarn across your 4 fingers, use your thumb to stabilize, and then wrap the yarn around your 2 middle fingers and hold it in place with your pinky and your thumb for the magic circle. Take your crochet hook, go under those 2 loops around the middle fingers, bring up a loop, yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through that loop for a slip knot. Then you're going to make 6 single crochet into the magic circle, just like we've done before. Then you're going to take and close the magic circle. And this time you're going to need a yarn marker. Go ahead and place your yarn marker right where you left off, and we're going to make 1 increase round. So for this increase round, you're going to make 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch. And then you're going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. So 1 single crochet into the first stitch, 2 single crochet into the next stitch. And I'm going to go ahead and just finish this with you because I'm almost back to my yarn marker. So 1 single crochet and 2 single crochet into the next stitch. So now you can take and close the center of the magic circle if you need to. Just turn your work over and give that loose yarn end a gentle tug on the back, and then that closes up the center. Then you're going to move your yarn marker up, and you're going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch around for 2 rounds. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So the stitch count is 9, and then you need one more round of 1 single crochet in every stitch in the round, and then come back. Then after you finish the 2 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch around, this is what your tail should look like. Go ahead and remove the yarn marker, and a little bit of craft stuffing is optional. I didn't add any craft stuffing for mine. I'm just tucking my loose yarn end and using that as stuffing, and that's plenty. So you can either add a little craft stuffing or you can just use your loose yarn end, whatever you want to do. Then you're going to take and we're going to slip stitch it closed. So you're going to skip a stitch, go into the next stitch, and then you're going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and bring the yarn through both loops for a slip stitch. And you're going to continue slip stitching around until the tail is closed. Make one more slip stitch. Then I'm going to go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to sew the tail onto your dog. So now you can take and position your tail onto the back of the dog. And I position mine right in the V at the top of the backside fur. And then I just go into the body, and then just a couple rounds. Just grab a couple rounds with your tapestry needle and then cinch the tail in place. Then you're going to take and go up into the tail with your tapestry needle. And then go back into the tail at the base of the tail, go back into the body, and then come out in the back of the body. And just keep going all around the base of the tail and sewing it to the body. This is what the tail looks like when I'm finished. And now we're going to make the feet. You're going to need 4 feet. I've already made 3 of them, and I'm going to show you how I made them with the 4th one. So again, you're going to start with the magic circle, and we're going to start with the slip knot, and then we're going to make 6 single crochet into the magic circle. And then you're just going to close up the magic circle. And then just turn your work. And then we're going to make 2 single crochet into every stitch around until you have a total of 12 stitches in the round. So 2 single crochet in every stitch around. So now you should have 12 stitches in the round. Go ahead and turn your work over and close the center of the magic circle. And then we're going to make 2 increase rounds. So go ahead and take your yarn marker, place it right where you left off. For the first increase round, you're going to make 1 single crochet into the first stitch and 2 single crochet into the second stitch. And then just repeat that pattern all the way around. Back to the yarn marker. Then just move your yarn marker up for your next increase round. This is the last increase round you're going to make 1 single crochet into 2 stitches and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch, and repeat that pattern all the way around. So now you should have 24 stitches in the round. Go ahead and move your yarn marker up. And now we're going to make 6 single crochet 2 stitches together. So you take your crochet hook, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, go into the next stitch and bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, go ahead and yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through all 3 for a single crochet 2 stitches together. And you're going to repeat that 6 times. So here's my second single crochet 2 stitches together. I'll make 1 more with you and then I'll let you finish. So this is my third single crochet 2 stitches together. So you need a total of 6 of them. 6 single crochet 2 stitches together and then come back. After you finish your 6 single crochet 2 stitches together, then you're going to make 1 single crochet into each of the remaining stitches. So 1 single crochet in each of the remaining stitches. So now you should have a total of 18 stitches in the round. Go ahead and move your yarn marker up, and then you're just going to make 1 round of 1 single crochet in every stitch in the round. So 1 single crochet in every stitch for 1 round. Then just move the yarn marker up, and this time you're going to make 3 single crochet 2 stitches together. And then after you make the 3 single crochet I made a single crochet. You want to make 3 single crochet 2 stitches together. And then after you finish making the 3 single crochet 2 stitches together, you're going to make 1 single crochet into each of the remaining stitches. So 3 single crochet 2 stitches together, and then 1 single crochet into each of the remaining stitches, and then come back. So now you should have a total of 15 stitches in the round, and you should have a little outpouching here for the front of the paw. Then go ahead and move the yarn marker up, and you're going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch around for 5 rounds. So 5 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch around, and then come back. Then after you finish your 5 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch, you can go ahead and remove the yarn marker, and then you're going to make a slip stitch into the next stitch over. So just go right into that next stitch, yarn over, bring the yarn through both loops on the hook. Then you're going to go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to sew the foot onto your dog. So now you're going to need 4 of these. So now you want to position the legs on the bottom of the body. And first, make sure you put some craft stuffing into 2 of the paws. We're going to do the front paws first. And you want to kind of get an idea. Make sure that the paws are facing forward. You don't want to sew them on backwards. And then you just kind of want to position them in the front to see about where you would like to have them on the bottom of the dog. And I usually like to have about a couple of stitches in between the paws, and then you can kind of just turn the dog and kind of look and see if that's where you want to position the front paws. And it should be able to hold your dog up too. So then once you're happy with the position, then you can take your tapestry needle, and then you're going to sew around the base, all around the base of the foot. And when you're sewing, you want to make sure you get into the body as well. So don't sew just to the fur. And I usually go and skip stitches around. So you might have a gap that you'll just sew several times around the foot. So I just keep going in and out. And I usually go about a stitch over, and I'm constantly repositioning the foot as well, because you don't want the foot to be sewn on crooked. And then I just go about a stitch over and then back down into the body and out where I want to go back into the foot. The other thing that you want to do is make sure that your feet are symmetrical on both sides. So you don't want one foot up here or one foot down here. You want them exactly the same on the opposite side. And you also want it to be equal when you look at it from the front too, before sewing it in place. And then this is what it looks like after I'm finished with the front legs. So I'm happy with how the front legs turned out. So now I'm ready to sew the back legs on. Now at the back legs, you can see that I'm making sure that the back legs are in line with the front legs. And this is how I lined up my legs in the back. And you'll do the same thing with both legs. Line it up with the front leg, and of course the paws are forward. This is what her feet look like after I'm finished. So you can see how they look even and they hold her up, and that's what you want. And then this is what it looks like underneath. So now you can take and add your little accessories if you want. So I have the collar, the little pet collar, and also I have this little clip that I'm going to use. I've also used small book rings if you can't find these, but this came in one of my, I got a large multi-ring book ring pack, and these came in with the book rings, so this will work perfectly. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clip my little lockets and stuff that I want to add. Now this little pendant that I made, little amulet, I have a separate video tutorial where I show how I made it. So I have a little granny square inside of there, little crochet hook. So this little crochet hook was made by Pastiche Accessories on Etsy. So if you go and get some of these, just let her know that Helenmay Crochet sent you for these adorable little crochet hooks. And also in the video tutorial I'll show you how I made the little balls of yarn. So this video tutorial is going to be a separate video tutorial. And then inside this little locket you can put a picture. So I really like this little locket, and this is just for a little graduation present. So then you can take and just put the charm or whatever that you want onto this little clip. And I'm also going to put the little amulet as well. So both of those will just go right on there. Then you can take and clip it to the little dog collar. And you can make your own collar too. So I have separate video tutorials that show you how to make your own little dog collar. And in some of the dog videos that I have, I show how to make the dog collar in the video tutorial. So you can see how that will hang right on there. And then you can take and just put it right onto your dog. And then the other thing that I have is I have this little clip that I found at one of the craft fairs, and I thought it was really beautiful, so I've had this in my craft box waiting for the perfect amigurumi to put it onto, and I think it'll be adorable on this one. It has little bunnies with jewels on them, and it's a little clip, hair clip, so you can actually wear this hair clip too, so it can be removed and worn. But I'm just going to take and just clip it right onto the ear. and then it's just really adorable. And then this is also optional, but I have this adorable little pet outfit. It fits a real pet. And I'm just going to put this on to the dog. And this is what her outfit looks like on her. So it's a little large on the back, but I actually really like it, so I'm going to leave it on. But like I said, it's optional, and you can always take it off if you don't want it on there. But I'm going to leave mine on my dog. And now I'm going to show you how to make the little painted claws. So the first thing you want to do is get the color that you want for the claws. I'm going to use my watermelon colored yarn. And then you're going to take the paw and you're going to start. I use the magic circle underneath as a landmark. And then I'm going to go to the right and just above the magic circle, and then I'm going to go in, and you want to check and see where the center is on top, and the center is right here on the top of the claw, and you're going to go 2 stitches over and then come up with your tapestry needle. And then just bring the yarn through. Make sure you leave enough of a loose yarn end for tying a knot. And then you're going to go back in where you first went into the paw, and you're going to come up right in the center. So you're going to come back into the stitch that was in the center of the paw. And then just bring the yarn through, and then you finished the one claw. Then you're going to go straight down about a stitch over and right above the magic circle. And then you go back in, and then you're going to come up 2 stitches over to the left, and then just bring the yarn through, and then your center claw is finished. Then you're going to take and go about a stitch. You want about the same distance between the two. Oh, I'm going. So here you're going to go straight down, and you're going to go about the same distance as you did from this side, and you're going to go back in, and then you're going to come out right where you went in initially. And then just pull the yarn through, and then you have all 3 claws, and you can move it over if you want to with your tapestry needle, and then pull it as snug as you want. Then when you're finished, you're going to take and tie a knot. And then you can trim the yarn. Make sure you leave enough of a loose yarn end for burying into your work. And then you just take the loose yarn end, put it onto your tapestry needle. And then you're going to go in right where you finished off, and then come out in the back of the foot to bury the loose yarn end. Just give a little gentle tug, and then you can trim the loose yarn end. So that's how you make your claws. Go ahead and make your claws in all of the feet. And then this is what she looks like with her painted claws. And then I kind of just tucked her outfit under on itself. And it looks cute.